You're a 24-year-old employee of Union Carbide.
A man who has worn many hats over the years, including that of leading India's largest FMCG company, Hindustan Unilever, as chairman and managing director for nearly a decade.
That's when the Bhopal gas tragedy happened. I still remember the date. It was the intervening night of December 2nd and 3rd, 1984. A few weeks I was sent to Bhopal to be a part of the crisis team. And when I look back, Mukul, I feel a boy became a man in Bhopal. It impacted me in many ways. I understood the responsibility of a corporation. I understood the role of corporation in a society which goes far beyond making money. Forget the legal responsibility. Something about moral responsibility. You cannot escape that.
Under your guidance, HUL crossed $76 billion in market cap. It was a 17 billion and then it went to 76 billion.
I never told my team that our objective is to create $76 billion market cap. Never. If we do the right thing for our consumers, our customers, our suppliers, our employees, our environment and society, then the value gets created. Post-COVID, we had a very high inflation and our margins took a dip. Category leaders came and said that if we do away with the small packs, then our margin percentage would go up. That would have been a very short-term decision. Our purpose is to cater to the needs of every Indian. So we said we'll take a hit on the margins, but we won't vacate the space.
I want to know how it feels when you were right there in the first hour of the crisis. What were you doing? What goes through your head?
I always believe when it comes to crisis, we should be looking at things in a...
Today we have Sanjiv Mehta, the former chairman and MD of Hindustan Unilever, who built levers into a $76 billion giant that touched every Indian household. But this is not a conversation about quarterly results or CEO jargon. This is about the human side of success. We talk about ambition, ego, failure, and reputation. How to grow without losing humility, how to get the best from the people around you, and how to build something without compromising on your values. Sanjiv coined a word that we all need to learn: humbition. Ambition anchored by humility. And I think that idea matters far more than any business. Watch this till the end. So you're a 24-year-old employee of Union Carbide in Mumbai.
That's when the Bhopal gas tragedy happened.
What year was that?
This was, I still remember the date. It was the intervening night of December 2nd and 3rd, 1984. And after a few weeks, I was sent to Bhopal to be a part of the crisis team.
Got it.
And when I look back, Mukul, I feel a boy became a man in Bhopal. The tragedy was of huge proportions. And it was a small crisis team and I was like a flunky in the team.
Right.
Fixing meetings. Sometimes I'm speaking to the CBI guys. Sometimes I'm speaking to the American lawyers. Sometimes to CSIR. And separating people, closing down operations, branches, selling stuff. So it was, in a year and a half, I was in Bhopal.
You were there for a year and a half. So you had to move to Bhopal for a year and a half.
Based over there during the thick of crisis. It impacted me in many ways. I understood the responsibility of a corporation. I understood what it means in terms of role of corporation in a society which goes far beyond making money.
And just looking at the employees.
When I had to separate people, grown-up people who had worked for company for decades, they knew what was in front of them. But when you tell them that your job is coming to an end, grown-ups with tears in their eyes. So that really in many ways molded my thinking. I think when I talk about compassionate capitalism, the seeds were sown then. That as a corporation, your role in society is far bigger than just making money.
And just one thing, when you think of Union Carbide, the first thing any Indian thinks of obviously is the Bhopal gas tragedy. What about the larger picture of, I can't but help ask that question of the tragedy itself and the company's responsibility. And how did that impact you? And what are your thoughts
massively. When I talk about compassionate capitalism, the role of business, even now, there is hardly any meeting which I start where we first don't discuss safety. You will never see me sitting in a car, even in the rear seat, without wearing a safety belt.
Right.
Seat belt. Never. When I enter a hotel room, I first look at exit.
Oh.
Yeah, it gets embedded in me subconsciously.
I just want to go a little deeper into this. It's very interesting. What exactly happened during your time in Bhopal that made you so cautious?
That Bhopal case is still in courts. Yeah, there are certain criminal aspects which are still being adjudicated, decided upon. Now, forget the legal responsibility. Something about moral responsibility. You cannot escape that ever. Yeah. So the important bit is, private companies are never ever built to protect themselves, say, from incidents of sabotage. You can never ever run a corporation saying, I'll prevent all possible chances of sabotage. But that could happen. And that could have huge implications.
Data leak. Today, the big one would be a data leak, for example.
So the important bit is that within the confines of running a business enterprise, you have to take all possible actions to ensure that as a business, you remain a force for good and do not have a negative impact on the society. And, for me, business has always been a force for good. You run a business to meet the unmet needs of consumers, but you have to be a business with a conscience. And your whole purpose in business should not be just for making money. Making money should be incidental to running a business. Vijay Gokhale was a very celebrated CEO at that point of time. He was not from the agriculture products division. He came from the battery division, Everready Batteries. Yeah. And he just became a CEO a few years before the accident. He had taken over from Bill Correa as the chairman and managing director. And suddenly he got caught in this. His entire career got destroyed. His life got destroyed. And so you also understand that when you take on a job of a CEO, it comes with a huge amount of responsibility.
The buck stops at you, basically.
Completely. And, that is when you also realize that a CEO's job is not just about the privilege of power. Yeah. It comes with a huge amount of accountability and responsibility. And in many ways, it's a burden of care. Care for your people, care for the environment, care for the society.
The whole ecosystem.
That's where I'm coming from, that some of the seeds that were sown influenced my thinking over the years.
I mean, you saw the responsibility so clearly that a business has for, whether it was their fault or not is a moot point.
Absolutely.
It happened under their watch.
That's right.
And that is enough, basically.
That's right.
Now, you can blame whoever, whatever, but
whatever be the reason.
But it's happened.
It's happened.
The truck has run over someone. My truck has run over someone now, whether it's that person's fault or the truck driver's fault, who cares what?
That's right.
But we are a corporation.
That's right.
How do we get behind this situation?
Absolutely.
And also, how do we ensure that doesn't happen again? Which is your point.
Yeah.
Under your guidance, HUL crossed $76 billion in market cap. In the 10 years you were there. When you joined in 2013, it was a 17 billion and then it went to 76 billion. I think it was one of the top 5 companies in India by market cap when you left. But you always say that this value was created because of the values that you have and that the company has. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you know, Mukul, I never told my team that our objective is to create $76 billion of market cap. Never. Yeah. We always used to tell that, guys, if we do the right thing for our consumers, our customers, our suppliers, our employees, our environment and society, then the value gets created. And Unilever, one of the great things about Unilever is it's a very purpose-driven and a values-led company. And we always looked at value creation as something which is a long-term compounding model. Not that you take shortcuts, not that you beef up margins in a year and bump up your share price. That's not what we ever looked at. I'll give you, just to bring this concept to life, post-COVID, we had a very high inflation. And our margins took a dip. Yeah. And I remember some of our category leaders came and said that if we do away with the small packs, yeah, the sachets and all, then our margin percentage would go up. Because relatively speaking, those sachets and all, they make money, but the percentages margins are much lower. Now, that would have been a very short-term decision. Because our purpose is not to cater to the rich Indians. Our purpose is to cater to the needs of every Indian. So we said, we'll take a hit on the margins, but we won't vacate the space. And we don't want to be in a scenario where we are not providing great brands at affordable price for the masses of the country.
I was reading your book, CEO's Brew. And one thing that struck me was this word that you coined. Not many people can coin words. Humbition. A mix of humility or being humble and ambition. Tell us about this.
You know, I come from a school of thought that each one of us, to realize our potential, we need to have a fierce fire of ambition. And your ambition should not be constrained by your resources. Yeah. And your ambition could lead you to success.
It is the only way, you're saying, on one level.
It's important.
Otherwise, very hard.
Yeah. And success could also breed arrogance. And who better than Greeks to teach us hubris leading to nemesis? And if you don't want to fall into a trap of becoming arrogant, which is the beginning of a downfall, I believe, then you need to anchor your fierce fire of ambition with the cooling waters of humility. And when you have humility as a leader, you will not hesitate to say, I don't know. When you have humility, you will not hesitate to say, I need to learn. When you have humility as a leader, you will not hesitate to say, I went wrong. And I believe when you have this combination, of humility with ambition, what I call as ambition, then it becomes a very potent force.
Sky is the limit.
Absolutely.
What I loved about humbition is it seems to be an interesting path, an interesting concept that you have created, a framework to be the best version of yourself. Because you need both. How do you nurture your ambition, but still, keep it grounded with humility?
If you don't have ambition and you don't work on realizing the ambition, then it becomes like a wishful thinking. It becomes like daydreaming. So once you have the ambition, then you need to have the courage to pursue the path which will help you realize your dream. Yeah. Say, if you want to do business, business entails risk. Risk entails failures. If you're afraid of failures, you'll never be able to do business. Yeah. But unbridled ambition could lead you to a unidimensional path where you could forget that there are many variables which are not in your control, and you could stumble and fall. And very importantly, in a world which is changing so rapidly, if you don't have a thirst for learning, and if you are not willing to accept your failures, then you would never become a great leader. At the end of the day, we as individual human beings can do only that much and not beyond. In fact, I believe there is a myth around a great leader. It's always a great team. How would you inspire a team to walk on water for you if you don't have the humility, if you don't have the compassion, if you don't have the empathy? So if you have ambition and humility, then that becomes a very powerful combination.
You spoke about failure, and we'll talk about it more, and fear. So how do you, because you have an ambition, how did you overcome your fears to achieve your ambition?
Yeah. I had an accounting background. I had the numbers background. But my ambition was to lead companies. So if you look at my career, I worked in mergers and acquisition. I worked in sales and marketing. I worked in supply chain. Now, these were not my comfort zones. These were alien areas.
You hadn't studied any of them.
Absolutely. And I went there to learn, to understand, so that I can position myself to be a general manager. If I were to had a dream of becoming a CEO, but if I had not gone down the path of learning marketing, distribution, supply chain, I would never have been ready for a job. I would not even have got a job as a CEO. An important bit is that if you have that hunger for something, then pursue it with zeal. Don't hesitate. I'll give you another very pertinent example. We were in Dubai, and our chairman there was an American guy called Tom Stevens. And I still remember, this was early 98, when he came to me and said, Sanjiv, by end of the year, we should get you a board member's role in one of the Unilever companies. So I was very happy. I told Tom, great, look forward to. After a few months, he came and said, Sanjiv, there's a job of commercial director opening up in Unilever Bangladesh. But the Bangladesh business is in deep trouble. And we don't want you to say yes if you're not happy about it. Don't worry, we'll find another job for you. So I went and discussed with my wife, Mona, and we said, let's go on a recce trip. Let's go and see. And our baby's twin daughters, Naina and Roshni, were just about 3-4 years old. So we went to Bangladesh on a recce trip. This was August of 98. When Emirates was landing in Dhaka, the only thing we could see was a strip of land. Everything else was underwater.
Wow.
It was the worst flood in the history of Bangladesh.
My God.
From Dhaka, we took a propeller aircraft and went to Chittagong because we were headquartered in the port city of Chittagong. Now, in a consumer goods company, we fight for 100 bips of market share. And here, in the biggest category, Unilever, which had 85% shares in toilet soaps, within 4 years, the shares had plummeted to low 30s. Yeah, it was a massacre.
From 85% of soaps in
Market
Bangladesh, you
share.
went down to 30%.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
a marketing story in itself.
Annihilation.
Completely. And when this kind of thing happens in your biggest category, your talent starts fleeing you. So when we went there, then I went to the office. It was a pretty depressing. And you get a smell of the place. You don't need to be shown PowerPoint slides to tell you how good a business is doing or how bad. You get that smell of a place. And after Dubai, Chittagong would have been a tough place for us to stay. And Mona was working as a corporate banker for HSBC.
Oh.
She would have had to leave a job. And we had a very protected environment. We had nice nannies looking after Naina and Roshni. All that would have been disrupted. And the business was in shambles. It would have been a very tough move for us. And then the fear was that if we are not able to turn around the business, my career would go down the Bay of Bengal. So on a flight back, I was talking to Mona that I'm not very keen for the job for this reasons. And
To say the least.
And Mona reframed the context. She said, Sanjiv, where in your life would you get a chance to turn around a Unilever company? That changed the complete context for me. From a challenge, I started looking at an opportunity. Then we took the plunge. In 2 years, as a commercial director, helped turn around the business. And then I was offered the chairman's role. So when you have this burning desire, not only pursue it with heart and mind, but take risk. Because if you don't take risk, you won't get commensurate rewards.
I was reading your book and I found 3 interesting things that you do that very few people do. One is, like you said, about failure. You have, in Bangladesh, you started failure meetings.
Yeah.
What is a failure meeting? And how can everyone learn from that?
The normal human instinct is to show your best self to others. And if you're not succeeded in doing things, it's not surprising when people try to sugarcoat, or attach external factors to things which were basically under your control, and come to a reasoning which would take away the focus from what a person didn't do right or didn't do.
They make it a little bit vague and nebulous.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sab theek hai. Nothing really happened. Why should I blame you and you blame me?
That's right.
Like a nice grey consensus. Comfortable consensus.
Absolutely.
Without any cutting truths, basically.
Yeah. And if you want to really build a learning organization, then you need to have leaders who have the courage to face the failure and talk about the failure. I used to tell my team that there are productive failures and unproductive successes. Unproductive success is when you don't know why the heck you are succeeding. Yeah. It's just that the tailwinds are there and many things are
But everyone will take
orchestrated.
credit.
But people take credit, of course. And then there are productive failures where you have failed, you have learned the lessons, imbibed them, and worked upon them. Yeah.
And shared them with others also.
Absolutely. So one is I wanted the organization to be comfortable with failures. Otherwise, people won't stretch. They won't take risk. Come to think of it, if you aren't failing, that means you aren't stretching enough.
Only on the edge of your capabilities
That's
is the
right.
line between failure and success.
Exactly.
And you know that
Absolutely.
I've pushed myself.
And when the business was not doing well, there is even a bigger hesitancy to talk about the failure list. The entire focus moves to that person. So I wanted to break that. So we set up a failure forum.
A failure forum.
Where starting with me, I would discuss my failures. And then I would expect all the senior leaders to talk about their failure.
And how often did this happen?
We used to do it once in 4-5 months. And then, rather than leaving it as a nice failure forum to discuss, we also started the after action review. All key activities. We borrowed this AR from US Army. US Army, whenever they have any engagement, they do an AR. And AR is in very simple ways.
AR?
AAR, after action review.
After action review.
Yeah, what they do is they answer certain basic questions. One is, what did you set out to do? Second, what happened? Third, what will you sustain going forward? Fourth, what will you improve going forward? Yeah. So we started doing the ARs for every activity. Whether it's a new launch, whether it's a category expansion, whether it is a big marketing activity. And then what happened? You used failure as a stepping stone to success, rather than treating failure as an opposite of success.
Failure is not the opposite of success.
No,
What is it then?
it's a stepping stone to success.
Got it.
Yeah. Now, look at the world in which I lived. In consumer goods, Mukul, Harvard Business School had done a study of global launches. 7 out of 10 launches don't succeed. Yeah. And the 3 that succeed, 70% of them don't succeed the first time.
Right.
Yeah. Now, one is, so it's a highly competitive field. So just think of it. You've launched a great product, and a company like ours, we research it to death.
So first time hits are not even 10%, 1 in 10.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very interesting point. Other than the regular failure meetings, one more thing which I found very interesting is that you made a habit of talking last
Yes.
in any meetings, even though you were the chairman of the
That's
company.
right. I'll tell you something. As a leader, when you open your mouth, very often you sway the opinion in the room. And I believe that a good leader should believe in diversity of counsel and unity of command. Yeah. You need to get the views of diverse set of people. But once having debated, you'll take a decision, then everyone should own the decision as if it was there. That's where unity of command comes in. But if you're the chairman of the company, you're sitting in a room with 15 people and you come in and you say, hey guys, this is the problem. This I believe is the root cause and this is the solution.
Done.
people who had diametrically opposite views would never be able to express themselves. And you would not get the benefit of diversity of counsel. And leadership is not about who has the loudest voice, who has the sleekest presentation, who has the voice of the highest paid employee in that room. That's not leadership. Leadership is encouraging people to speak their thoughts without fear or favor, and then gleaning the best insights from it and taking the most appropriate decision. That's leadership.
Amazing, yes.
And if I say the other bad aspect of leadership is that if the boss man has expressed his or her view, and then you have someone junior in the company expressing a view which is very different from the chief's views, how would the chief react? Would you cross your arms and give a steely-eyed stare? Or you would encourage that person to speak up and listen. And if they are right, change your views. That's leadership. As an individual, as a leader, you need to have your point of view.
For sure.
Yeah, but then you should be flexible enough to change if you're given facts or data which is contrary to your point of view.
What is the difference between a failure that teaches you and a failure that just repeats itself?
I would always tell my people that, guys, fail, but fail in doing something different. If you keep failing doing the same goddamn thing, then you aren't learning. Failure has to be a stepping stone to success. That means you should know what went wrong, why it went wrong, where it went wrong, tweak, adapt, make those changes, and then pivot.
So really go deep into the failure, dispassionately.
Absolutely.
And understand it.
Yeah, don't skirt the surface. Don't waste the time on blame gaming. Yeah, which again,
very easy to do. It's
very easy to
nature,
do,
basically.
and many people fall into that trap.
Of course. They can't help it.
That's right.
Even in the personal life, private, same
Yes,
thing. It's just
yes.
how it is.
The other bit, very important, is in today's world, which is changing so fast and rapidly, if you don't experiment, you would never be an organization which is a learning organization. And by the very nature of the word experiment, the failure is attached to it. You would never be able to transform yourself.
Yes. When someone fails, how do you tell whether it's a problem of skill, effort, judgment, or character?
When it is skill, you realize that the person had the right intent, has put the right effort behind it, but he lacked the technical aspects of doing the job well. Now, that is something a good organization can always help you in possessing that skill, or perhaps realizing that you're in a wrong job and moving you to another job. Yeah. But if you've not paid effort, you're lazy, you're complacent, then that's harakiri. Yeah. If it's an error of judgment, it's an honest error of judgment where you have gone through the right way of taking a decision, But you never have all the information with you. If you wait for all the information, it will be way too late at times. So you could have taken a call. I would always say never hang a person by the nearest lamppost if a person has taken an honest decision in the interest of the company, but where the judgment went wrong. Yeah. But if it is a question of values, of integrity, then zero tolerance.
What kind of failure should be forgiven quickly?
A failure which is not linked to the value system should be forgiven and forgotten.
And what kind of failure should never be ignored?
Ethical failing. In our company, Mukul, if you launched a brand and you spend 200 crores, it's gone down the tube, that's fine. But if you fudged around with a 50 rupees voucher, it's zero tolerance.
Because it shows your nature.
Absolutely.
If you fudge this, you'll fudge everything, basically.
Absolutely.
People say there's no one galti, basically. It's your nature. So GST rates changed in 2017. And the law required companies to pass on net benefits, but did not specify how. So it was completely grey. Hindustan Lever voluntarily paid 118 crores back. And the finance minister then, Arun Jaitley, publicly said that he could not think of any company that would do what HUL did. Can you walk us through that decision?
Yes. Mukul, the GST was introduced in the mid of 17. And then towards the end of 17, there were some rate rationalizations. And I remember I was sitting with the whole team, reviewing the implications of that decision. And it immediately dawned on us when the team was presenting that as a company we were making gains which were not intended. That was the spirit of law. We could have been silent. We could have pocketed the money because there was nothing illegal about it. And it didn't take me long to decide that we will pay that money back to the government. Now, these are not small sums of money. When I expressed my views, there was that short silence in the room. But then the team got it. That's who we are. Just think of it. The message that would have gone across the length and breadth of the company.
And the country.
Yeah. This is a company where it doesn't go by the letter of the law. This goes by the spirit of law. This is a company which will not ever debate the right thing to be done, irrespective of the cost.
Amazing.
And I believe these stories become example for generations to come. It's not about writing in nice flowery language and hanging it in your reception area or in your boardroom, your code of ethics. It is about practicing. It is about the harder ride. It is about doing it when you're not expected to do. It is about doing it when no one is watching you.
Can you tell me about a smaller moment, not a famous one, where nobody would have known what you chose, but you still chose the harder path?
I'll tell you is, there was an incident where we were setting up a facility and someone was asking for some bribe relating to certain permissions. An easier way would have been to pay the money to a consultant as advisory fees, and they would have gone and settled it. And we were very clear, let the project get delayed, but we are not going to pay the money.
So HUL doesn't pay to any consultants, which pretty much everyone else does. If not directly, then they'll say, "Chalo, boss, you do it," and no, HUL doesn't.
No
do that.
facilitation fees.
And still it grows
Absolutely.
all over the world.
Absolutely. The reason being that people know that HUL won't pay.
That is amazing. I mean, one question there, which I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, is that HUL can do this because it's HUL. At least today, it's a multi-billion, almost $100 billion in India. I mean, it's a giant of a company, one of the biggest companies in India. So they can do it, but everyday people in more junior positions, in smaller companies, startups,
It's tough on them.
personal lives, they have. So how do they do it?
I know it is very tough. It's very tough. But if all of us as a nation decide not to pay, you will see a very different moral standard coming up in the country. The corruption also happens not because there are takers, but also because there are givers.
You mentioned high performance companies. So I want to understand this at a company level and at a human level. What does high performance mean to you?
Yeah. In many ways, over my 20 years, I've been able to codify what is high performance. When it comes to a corporation, a high performing company is over three axes: the mindset, the capabilities, and the performance anatomy. When it comes to mindset, the two most important mindsets are the growth mindset, and if you're a professional company, the owner's mindset. Yeah. Now, growth mindset is basically looking at opportunities in every challenge. An owner's mindset is that even though you may not be owning the company, every rupee that you spend, you think as if it is going from your wallet, and the name of the company has your family name in it. So you will protect and add luster to the company as if it was your own company. When it comes to capabilities, I always say they have to be distinctive and hard to replicate. Every business requires certain capabilities which are defining. And if they're not distinctive and hard to replicate, then you won't get a competitive edge. To create that moat, they have to be distinctive. And the third is performance anatomy. And performance anatomy is about, say, the talent management. It is about how do you make steely-eyed strategies.
How do you make?
Steely-eyed strategies.
Steely-eyed.
Yeah.
Steely-eyed strategies.
How do you have a fetish for execution? And very importantly, the culture you breed in the organization, the high performance culture. Yeah. And when you bring this three together with your purpose and values center stage, then you build a high performing company.
What is one daily discipline for you? Because you talk about distinctive capabilities.
Yeah.
Basically a USP.
Yeah.
Which every company needs to have, every country needs to have, every individual needs to have.
Yeah.
What was one daily discipline that gave you disproportionate returns and gave you this USP?
Yeah. One is I'm an early riser. Yeah. That's a habit. And mornings are also a time for me to do my physical exercise. And the second is spend time on reading. For the last 35, 40 years, I've been a regular reader of Harvard Business Review, MIT Sloan Review, McKinsey Quarterly. My newspapers at home are New York Times, physical newspaper. जब से वॉर हुई है न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स बंद हो गया FT comes. FT, Times, Indian Express, Economic Times, Mint, Business Standard.
And you read all of them?
And what I do, I scan, if not read all of them, and where the good articles are there, I go in the evening and read them. And sometimes I take it out and keep it for the weekend to go through it.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't read, how would you learn what's happening in the world? If you don't invest in your own development, you'll get fossilized. You'll get left behind. So just like you have to nurture your muscles, similarly, you have to nurture your mind.
Most people think that better decisions come from more information. You have spent decades making massive billion-dollar decisions with incomplete information. What is the real relationship between information and a decision?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Mukul. Seldom you have 100% of the information required to take a decision. First is, I'm very data intensive.
Right.
Yeah, I don't fly blind. Yeah. But I also know that if you wait too long, the cost of inaction would be far higher. So we have to learn to take decisions with 60-70% information. Otherwise, you get way too late. Yeah. And that is where your intuition based out of experience and knowledge comes in. I'm not talking about intuition, just your feel. Yeah.
Yeah, in my head and I did it.
It's not that. It should come out of your knowledge and experience.
I want to talk a little bit about HUL. You ran HUL from 2013 to 2023. 17 billion when you started, valuation market cap, 76 billion when you left. HUL is a company that has sold to every Indian household. What do you understand about Indians now that you did not know when you joined?
I came here to India in October 13 after running the region of North Africa, Middle East, where I had 20 countries in my fold. But when I came here, 2 months before landing here, I sent to each of my management committee members a detailed brief on what I wanted them to show me. Invariably what happens, people show you the good things. So I gave them detailed list and told them, I want to see the good, the bad and the ugly. Yeah. And in typical HUL fashion, they welcomed me with over 7,000 PowerPoint slides. Painstakingly, I went through everything. And I told the team that I want the owner of that subject to present to me, not the senior most person. Because I also wanted to assess the talent in the company. Yeah. The second thing I did is extensive market visits, consumer homes, speaking to analysts, speaking to competitors. Yeah. What I did was, I did not come with a script. I came with an empty cup. But I came with a library. Yeah. Library of things that I have implemented in different paths. But I never realized that the 20 countries of North Africa, Middle East had more in common than the 29 states of India.
Oh.
Yeah. At that moment, Mona said, so that means you will have to win in many Indias. That was the crafting of the nomenclature for what ultimately became a Harvard Business School case study are winning in many Indias. There's nothing like a global consumer. There's nothing like a universal consumer. Yeah. In a country which is so heterogeneous as India, Mukul, averaging is a sin.
Yes.
Yeah. You should follow the principle of de-averaging. Yeah? The palettes are different. How you define beauty is different. The consumer behavior is different. The per capita incomes are different. So having one index for whole of India,
You're catering to nobody.
you're catering to nobody. We broke up India into first 14 and then 15 consumer clusters. They were relatively homogeneous clusters. And our strategy and execution and the jobs to be done for each cluster became very different. Yeah. Now let me bring this to life, which the audience will be able to relate to. If you pick up Red Label Brook Bond, yeah, the pack size is similar. But depending on where you pick up from, the blend inside is different depending on the palate. Say for instance, Mukul, if you go to Punjab में दूध में चाय डालते हैं. Yeah. Whereas if you go to Eastern UP, they want more strong tea. So you can't have one blend. Similarly, if you pick up Surf Excel, the formulation inside is different depending on the hardness of the water. So if you pick up Surf Excel from Bombay and take it to Delhi, और अगर बोलो कि बॉम्बे में अच्छा साफ करता था, दिल्ली में इतना नहीं कर रहा है, there's a reason. The formulation is for Bombay, hardness. Similarly, you pick up Lux soap, depending on where you pick up from, same white color, the perfume inside is different depending on the consumer preference.
And how many different variants do you have of, for example, Surf?
Oh, would be many.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Now, this is a bit counterintuitive because most management books will tell you that when it comes to complexity versus simplicity, simplicity always gains. Yeah. But my thinking has been a bit different, that there are good complexity and bad complexity. Good complexity, we should learn to manage. Bad complexity, we should eradicate.
Got it.
I'll give you one more incident which brings home why being in touch with the cold face is so important. We were having issues with Lux. And we spent a lot of time analyzing what's happening with Lux. Competitors, pricing, proposition, communication. And the broad theme was that we need to change the proposition of Lux. We had tinkered around with it way too long, and the team had come with a new proposition, etc. I was on a market visit to Bhubaneswar, and I was traveling between Bhubaneswar and Puri. So I went to पहली दुकान से पूछा भैया कैसा चल रहा है. So normally they would say बड़े साहब आए हैं बम्बई से, सिर्फ लीवर का ही माल बिकता है, everything well and all. I went to the next store. I said कैसा चल रहा है, लक्स कैसा बिक रहा है. So that guy said, सब ग्राहक कहते हैं कि एक कंपेटिटर ब्रांड की सुगंध हमारे लक्स से ज्यादा अच्छी. So I said, yeah, we do an amount of test and put the best perfumes. So I said, get me the 2 soaps. I opened it and I was stunned that there was a base soap odor in our Lux. So I thought maybe there is a batch which is wrong. Then I went to the next store. I picked up again. Again, there was a base soap odor and a different batch.
A base soap odor. Just not a nice thing, basically.
Yeah. You've seen a base soap which doesn't have any perfume.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the smell. And
Yeah.
for many consumers, the only perfume they have is the perfume which comes from the soap.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would have gone to at least 10-12 shops, picked up 10-12 soaps. हमारे भी competitor के भी शाम को होटल में जाके I took shower for 1 hour trying out all the goddamn soaps. And I was so disappointed. I called up my R&D head and told him my serious concern and my supply chain head. Then from there, I flew to Amritsar. I went to the market. I went to the wholesale market. The one shopkeeper over there, wholesale trader, tells me, कि साहब आपका सोप में प्रीमियम है, आप ज़्यादा दाम लेते हो, लेकिन ग्राहक कहता है कि दूसरे साबुन की सुगंध ज़्यादा अच्छी है, तो वो क्यों खरीदेगा? Picked up the soap, again a base soap odor. Then I called up my team from there. I said, guys, I'm reaching tonight back to Bombay. Tomorrow morning, I want all the Lux team in the boardroom. And that was the beginning of fixing the problem.
Right.
It was a manufacturing problem in a Garden Reach factory in Calcutta.
Got it.
One factory had a problem. But, the important bit, Mukul, is you can't be sitting in your ivory tower.
Come to the ground.
Come to the ground. Understand your consumer. Meet your consumer. Get a sense of it.
Got it. Another thing about levers and HUL especially is the number of leaders it has produced. I read somewhere that HUL has 400 alumni currently serving as CEOs and CXOs across corporate India. And HUL is also ranked as the dream employer by AC Nielsen. So Leena Nair left HUL to become the global CEO of Chanel.
Yeah.
Gopal Vittal left HUL to become the CEO of Bharti Airtel and now is the vice chair of Bharti Airtel. Neville Noronha became the CEO of DMart. These are all bazillion-dollar companies, Indian and global. What is it about HUL's culture that permits this to happen?
Yeah. If we just reflect on the world around us today, the global CEO of Jaguar Land Rover, the new CEO of Airtel, after Gopal, Shashwat Sharma, the CEO of Nestle, the CEO of Godrej, the CEO of Colgate, the CEO of Beiersdorf, the CEO of Haleon, the CEO of Dabur, and many more CEOs. Yeah. These were all guys who worked under me. The fact which I'm so proud of. Now, the reason why HUL breeds so many CEOs is one is a very strong employer brand. When you have a very strong employer brand, you're able to recruit the best, attract and recruit the best. So that's point number one. But more important are the kind of empowerment we do at a very young age and the kind of cross-functional training we do. For instance, if you join HUL and we would send you to rural Bihar, we would send you to Karnataka, we would send you to Delhi, we would send you to Assam, to understand what real India is about. Then we would seamlessly move you from sales to marketing. And at a very young age, we'll give you charge of handling a sub-brand or a segment where you're spending hundreds of crores of money on brand investments.
At what age would you be?
This would be late 20s.
Late 20s, you'll get hundreds of crores to spend on a brand.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So by the time you are in your mid-30s, you have handled P&Ls, and very importantly, you have understood not just your domain skills, but you have understood what makes an organization work and create value. I think these are the important ingredients which enable us to identify and groom leaders who end up occupying senior positions within Unilever or outside Unilever.
I mean, it's really the CEO factory.
Oh, it's amazing. The whole world of consumer goods today in India.
Yeah. I just want to understand your framework for understanding people, because like you said, success, failure, whatever, everything is with other people.
Yeah.
The next few questions I want to understand for me and for the audience, how do we analyze people better? How do we work with people better?
Sure.
How do we know that guy is a good guy to work with?
Two very important things I would look at, again, say two axes if I pick up, is one is empathy, and second is demanding high performance. Yeah. Empathy is basically telling a person that you look after my business and I look after you. When times are tough, I'll stand in front of you. When times are good, I'll stand behind you to applaud you. And very importantly, there should be that implicit contract between the boss and the subordinate. That go and do your best and I look after your career.
Right.
Yeah. When it comes to the people, that the onus is on me to look after them, their careers, their job, their satisfaction. And I used to tell my team, if you get up in the morning and say, oh shit, aaj daftar jana hai, then we need to speak.
Really? Wow.
I'll give you an example. When we were in North Africa, Middle East, when the Arab Spring happened, I had 4 managing directors: Gulf, Saudi and Yemen, Mashreq and Maghreb, East and West. And the big crisis was in Egypt. And Egypt was up in flames. And I had told Khalid, who was our managing director for Mashreq, that we need to make an aggressive plan. So first Khalid laughed. The whole bloody country is burning and you want me to make an aggressive plan? I said, yeah, Khalid, because this would be a great opportunity for us to be counterintuitive and win market shares. So he made a plan which was tinkering around the edges. So I said, Khalid, ye nahi chahiye. I need something where we are spending millions of euros more in Egypt. And I'll fund it from rest of the region. And the penny drop moment for him was when I told Khalid, if we win, the credit is yours. If we lose, the responsibility is mine.
Wow.
He went and did wonders. We gained the kind of market shares we had never gained before.
Because everybody was hunkering down and cutting and getting scared. And you said, how can you think of doubling down? Because a lot of people would say it's going to be messed up for 20 years. I don't want to put any money for 20 years.
Yeah. Mukul, we are into essential products. Yeah. Even when times are tough, you would still brush your teeth.
Surf excel or...
You would wash your clothes. You would take a shower. Yeah. And when times are tough, what you call as the lipstick effect comes into play. Small indulgences. You would want to do, have a Magnum ice cream or have a better beauty cream, etc. And during those days, the only thing people were doing is watching television. Tahrir Square mein jhagda ho raha tha. Yeah. All remember the Facebook and Tahrir Square, the movement to overthrow Mubarak?
Yes.
And the only ads they were watching were Unilever ads. Because everyone else had withdrawn. So you win big when you play counterintuitive games rather than playing very intuitive games. So when people started withdrawing distribution, we doubled down on distribution.
You took all the slack.
Absolutely.
Basically.
But the biggest thing that we did, which full credit to Khalid and his team, they collected money from all the wholesalers and distributors who were very willing to hand over cash because the banks were closed and they were worried about security. We brought it to our factories and offices. We made packets and distributed the cash to every worker, including the distributors' workers. Because the ATMs were closed, banks were closed. We collected whatever food we could from wholesalers and brought it to the factory and told our entire extended chain, whoever runs out of food, come to our factory and collect the food free of cost.
Right.
When other factories were being burned, our workers, without us asking them to do, on their own volition, stood guard 24 hours a day for many weeks to save the factory. And not surprisingly, we were the first to start operations. We were the first to extend distribution. We were the only brand which was advertising.
Wow.
So we won the loyalty of consumers when it mattered most.
I want to talk a little bit more about people. What we can learn from your genius at dealing with people. When you are hiring people or assessing people, what framework do you have?
You know, I always talk about the 3 C's that we have practiced. One is the contribution, is the track record of a person. Yeah, is it a blip or are they consistent high performers? Yeah. The second is the competency, the skills they have, the capabilities they have, the leadership traits they have. Are they learners? And the third, which precedes the first two, is the character. And that to me is extremely important.
Like, other than in Lever, suppose, everybody does business with different people or, interacts with different people. Character, you just explained. How do you assess someone?
That's a very good question. One has to peel the onion and see that how well did they take decisions under those tough circumstances. Are they playing the long-term game or a short-term game? You can always boost profit by cutting your A&P spend. Many times what you will find that leaders talk about failures in a manner where they ultimately come out as a hero. That to me is a red flag.
Yes.
Yeah. Like many times I ask people, what are your development needs? So, well, I work very hard. But when you really peel the onion and ask them to take you through the journey, then you would be able to get an understanding of the tough situation where they operated, what they did they do. Yeah. How did they act? How did they behave? And to me, a person who hogs all the limelight, doesn't share the limelight, doesn't talk about his genuine failures. Yeah. Those are all become concerns.
One more thing I wanted to ask about in Levers, I know you worked very hard to bring gender diversity into the organization. Could you tell us some numbers and how you made that happen?
First I'll tell you is gender diversity. I was greatly influenced by my dadi. My dadi, we used to call her BG. When we were young, she would regale us every night before going to bed with history, Indian history, Sikh history, Roman history, history of World War, independence struggle.
Amazing.
With names and years. And when I used to come back from work after I became a chartered accountant, she would make me sit and say, "Aaj 10 kitta ki hai. What have you done today?" So I had to then tell her, कि बीजी आज है मैं कम कितना है, and then she would ask me questions on that. And I used to wonder that if she had been given a chance to use her intelligence and drive and energy, she could have reached any position. And as human beings, we have done disservice to women for generations. Yeah. So I believe we have wronged them over years. And leaving aside roles like actual combat, women can do most roles.
Of course.
Yeah. So we need to create an environment where women act like women, not like men, and give the best. Yeah. I've been greatly influenced by Mona and our daughters, and we have groomed them in a manner that they can do anything. When I was in Saudi Arabia, we had only 3 women in our Saudi office when I was looking after North Africa, Middle East. And I was determined to change this. One of the big things those days was that if a woman has to travel outside Saudi Arabia, she has to have a written permission of a husband or a father. And their families would not be happy.
Of course.
If they're traveling alone to, say, Dubai, where we were headquartered. So what we did, I said, we'll pay for the chaperone. Let the mother-in-law come. Or the mother, whoever wants to come.
Whoever wants to come.
Yeah. Very few utilized it. But 5 years later, we had over 4 dozen women working in our Saudi office.
Right. From 3.
From 3. Yeah. When we came to India, we had 18% women in management. 10 years later, we had women in management in 40s with a clear path to gender parity. And then we said, okay, we have done a good job in management. Now we need to break it to other functions. So we started a project, Ahilya, at the front end. Ahilya by Holkar.
Of course.
And then at the factory level, in Sumerpur, we set up a factory where there was gender balance from the top to the blue-collar worker. And I'll tell you the story.
Wow.
We were setting up a new factory, putting in huge investment, state-of-the-art factory. So I went to UP to meet Yogi ji. And I told Yogi ji कि हमारे 3 समस्याएं हैं, मसले हैं, जिसके बारे में मैं आपको मिलने आया. तो बोलते हैं बताइए. पहला था state incentives. So I told him about it. So he asked his industry secretary, what has happened? And the industry secretary said, we have just sent a email clarification के लिए. तो योगी जी told him, वो email छोड़िए, आपको 2 हफ्ते देते हैं. 2 हफ्ते में इनको मिल जानी चाहिए परमिशन या फिर फाइल लेके हमारे पास आइए. Then he asked me about the second thing. I said, योगी जी, हम चाहते हैं कि हमारी फैक्ट्री में शॉप फ्लोर से मैनेजमेंट तक 50% महिलाएं हों. महिलाओं की सुरक्षा हमारी जिम्मेदारी. We are building hostels. We'll have guest houses where the families of the women employees can come and stay and see how safe their daughters are.
Wow.
और जो आसपास के गांव से हमारे जाएंगे लेने buses, they'll be with armed guards.
Wow.
So our responsibility. लेकिन हमें समस्या है कि आपका कानून कहता है 7 बजे के बाद महिलाओं को हम भर्ती नहीं कर सकते. You know what योगी जी said? आप भर्ती करिए, हम कानून बदल देंगे. He changed the law. So I feel so proud.
That's amazing.
That we acted as a catalyst to change the law in UP to allow women to work at night.
Wow. I want to talk a little bit more about the different crises you faced. You mentioned a little bit about Egypt when it was on fire. I read that when you were in Bangladesh, there were some false smuggling charges were put on you when you were the CEO of Bangladesh, and you had to surrender your passport. And the Indian High Commissioner asked you if you want to return to India, but you said no. The captain stays with the ship. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Very briefly.
This was a completely false case, which was put on Unilever Bangladesh. I was very clear. As the captain of the ship, I can't be deserting. I'll be there with my team. I'm not running away with the problem. We'll face it headlong and ensure that we come out clean. And then I went and met the principal secretary to the Prime Minister and explained them the whole thing. And they were aghast at the end of the day when they came to know about the reality. And I still remember the principal secretary, after meeting the Prime Minister, came back to me and said, Mr. Mehta, on behalf of the government of Bangladesh, we want to apologize.
Wow.
Yeah, and nothing of any harm will come to you or your company. But I think the important leadership lesson is that we were very clear. We are not going to bribe away and get away from it. Yeah. The risk you carry is trial by media. Yeah. And during my career, there have been many cases where we run big risk. But my North Star has been, first, the values. Second, importantly, looking after the people.
But not many people would have stayed back in a foreign
That's
country.
right.
Because
absolutely.
the High Commissioner is telling you leave.
Yeah.
You had to take anticipatory bail.
And
Nobody
having your passport with you is a very, very uncomfortable situation.
So not many people would blame you for saying, boss, I'll go to India and I'll make phone calls from India. I'll run it in India.
Yes.
What was going through your head?
My family was very worried. And those were the days when we were planning a European vacation. Everything came to a knot. And being in a foreign land without your passport is a very uncomfortable scenario. But had I left the country, I would have let down my team. You can't be a leader and during moments of crisis not be in the front.
You have to be there.
Absolutely.
Take the shot.
No question about that.
Can you tell us about demonetization? Because you are the head of levers. 500,000 people dependent on you. Billions of dollars, lakhs of crores of rupees flowing through your thing. Input, output, wholesalers, distributors, average people, kirana stores.
Yeah. Leadership, one realized very early in life, is not a position of power or privilege. Yeah, it is a burden of care. And every day one would remind oneself that I'm responsible for lakhs of people. The food on the table comes because of the business that Unilever runs in the country. So it always has weighed on my mind. So when demonetization happened, I remember we were at a management conference in London when it was announced. Immediately took the flight back next day, came back. And that time, my brief to my team was that, guys, the trade today will be bereft of funds. They won't be able to run their business. This is a time when we have to look after them. Yeah. So we extended credit to help them go over the tough times. Again, it comes down to the same principle. Yeah. During tough times, the two most important things are your values and looking after your people.
Got it.
So if you're true north, you always subscribe to it, you will come out better after the crisis.
Got it. You've weathered all these crises and you have these nice stories. But I want to know how it feels when you were right there in the first hour of the crisis, when the SHIT is hitting the fan. What were you doing? What goes through your head?
When you are in a leadership position, your attitude, your behavior, your mindset becomes very infectious. If you panic, rest of the organization will panic.
But what is happening inside you?
So you have fears. Yeah. It is not about not having fear. It is about acting despite your fears. I always believe when it comes to crisis, we should be looking at things in a brutally optimistic way. Yeah. When it comes to brutal, it is not about sugarcoating. It is about showing your reality to the people. You can't say that, hey guys, COVID is there and you don't have to worry, there's nothing happening, no one is dying. No. Tell them the truth. But people crave for leadership. They don't want you just to tell them the brutal fact. They want you to tell them how you will lead them out of the crisis.
You use a phrase, sense making.
Yeah.
Pulling incomplete information from bits and places everywhere into a picture that you can act on. For someone in our audience, could be running a company, could be running a home, just running their life basically. What does that look like in practice?
So today we are in a stage of perma-crisis, they call it. Yeah. And it's not a single crisis, it's a multitude of crises. And in this context, you will never have, if a crisis hits you, the first thing it does is throws your old strategy out of whack. You will not have all the information. How do you act? As leaders, you need to be able to put disparate information together. Whether it is macroeconomics, whether it is geopolitics, whether it is consumer behavior, whether it is Nielsen data, whether it is Kantar data, all together to make a plausible understanding of what is happening around you, based on which you take the decisions, experiment with it, refine it if required, or change it if required. So, sense making has to be a critical component of leaders' arsenal. You can't be waiting and saying, let the storm blow away and then I'll leave the shores. No. You have to adjust the sails. You have to learn how to ride the storm. And for that, sense making becomes so vital.
So you mean you have to just keep getting information from different places, I guess.
And make a sense out of it.
Right. When you were holding it together publicly through those hardest years, you were being this pillar for your team in Bangladesh, in India, everywhere. What did conversations at home look like with your wife, Mona, who's your rock?
Yeah. The important thing is, to the world, I may be a very successful chairman, creating billions of dollars of market cap. But when I go home, I'm Sanjiv to Mona. I'm dad to Naina Roshni. And the great thing about Mona has been, she has always ensured that I remain anchored to the roots and to the ground. Yeah. I may be winning many accolades, but at home she would always remind me, it is your team which is making you win. Yeah. And so I've never let my identity be merged together with the title of the CEO. At the core, I'm
right.
Sanjiv.
That's a very important point, and I like to tell people this. Like for me, I had many identities in my life as an artist, as blah 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 blah. That over identification with your career or what you do can help you on some level be very ambitious and grow, but ultimately it will stop you.
That's right, absolutely.
Because you are not what you do. You are you. You left Unilever after 32 years, where you were running different countries. And then you were the chairman and MD of Levers India and president of South Asia. Tell me about the day you walked out for the last time.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there wasn't a feeling of a bit of sadness. There was. But the overarching feeling was a sense of gratitude that I got an opportunity to run Unilever businesses for 21 years as a CEO. In many ways, I was looking forward to the next chapter of my life. And I remember a journalist asking me that, Sanjiv, are you hanging your boots? And I told him, I'm not hanging my boots, I'm changing my socks.
Good one. If you could go back to your 35-year-old self, not with career advice, but with one piece of advice about being a human being, what would you say?
That age, you are very driven, you're very focused on your corporate journey of climbing the corporate ladder. And while I will always tell myself that keep your fire of ambition alive, but I will also put my arms around me and say, enjoy the journey as much as you enjoy the destination. We should never forget that.
It's true. Thank you so much. Really.
Pleasure, Mukul. It's been fabulous getting to know you
Yes.
and being on your podcast.
Thank you.